You remember, of course, I was talking about FaZe and all of the problems they've been having. And as I predicted in my last video, which ended up being called FaZe Down appropriately, I was talking about all of the issues they've got related to their share price on the NASDAQ from their public offering that they did. You will recall from that video that I explained that the issue that FaZe had coming up was that all of the people they'd given stock to at the start were locked into a period where they weren't able to sell, and we were approaching that deadline. And what was likely to happen was, because it was a gimme, people are probably just going to take what they can. Because obviously FaZe have publicly said, they now have to disclose their public finances, they've said they're not doing too well, and they don't know if they'll have enough money to continue beyond the end of this year. They set a deadline of November. Unless their finances radically change, then things are going to be bad. And so that trend continued. It was $1.70. Now remember, the peak of the shares were above $20. It was about $20.04 or 8 cents per share. It went down to $1.70, $1.68 per share when I did my video. That was considered an absolute disaster. Obviously, it's like 80% plus of the total share price. It was in free fall, and people were desperately scrambling. Nobody was really talking about it from the FaZe side of things about what it meant. So now it was revealed yesterday that the price had fallen so badly, it had fallen below $1 a share, and thus was in danger of being removed from the NASDAQ altogether. That's how bad things had got for FaZe. And you can see here, FaZe Clan now has to deal with concerns about a deficiency notice from the NASDAQ stock exchange as the shares price remains below $1, with potential delisting on the horizon if things don't turn around. FaZe went public on the NASDAQ in 2022. They talk about it on here as if it was a long time ago. Yeah, it's just like, then. then. From here to the door in the background. FaZe went public on the NASDAQ in 2022 through an SPAC merger, kicking off with a $1 billion valuation. My, how that's aged. Their start to life as a public company was promising, reaching a peak of over $20 per share in August, but since then the value has plummeted, sitting at 89 cents per share at the time of writing. There are a myriad of reasons for this sharp decline, which obviously we went over in the previous video, a la the report from FaZe. From Forbes, rather. But as the stock continues to trade below $1, there's an even greater concern. NASDAQ compliance requires listings to trade at a value greater than $1 per share, and any company below $1 for 30 consecutive days risks a deficiency notice. As NASDAQ outlines, if a company trades for 30 consecutive business days below the $1 minimum closing bid price requirement, NASDAQ will send a deficiency notice to the company, advising it has been afforded a compliance period of 180 calendar days to regain compliance with the applicable requirements. In order to regain compliance, the listing would need to maintain a closing bid price of $1 or more for 10 consecutive business days. So it's not even that it resets. If one day, mysteriously, a bunch of people think, let's buy the dip, let's buy the FaZe dip, and a bunch of shares start going around and the price goes up a little bit, it won't be enough to reset it. It has to stay there. So they have to add value to the company, to add value to the shares in some meaningful way, and maintain it for a minimum of 10 days to stop the countdown on this delisting notification. Now, I'm going to be real with you. I'm not a stock exchange wizard. I'm a working class shitbag. I don't care about any of this. I think it's all evil. I'm still a bit of a raging lefty when it comes to, stocks and shares and Wall Streets and NASDAQs and all that. It's all one big fucking criminal conspiracy being perpetuated against the working class, and somehow we're all complicit in it because we sort of have to be just to get along with our own wretched and quiet lives. So I don't know much about it. It's never really interested me at all. But here's what I do know. They do have some tools available to them that could potentially increase the share price enough for a long enough period of time to get rid of the potential delisting. Let's just start right from the get-go. I mean, they're always making announcements about sponsorship deals, and the sponsorships aren't particularly lucrative in terms of, you're talking like $500,000 typically for a FaZe sponsorship, irrespective of the partner. That's pretty much what you get. It was only a few days ago, and this is when the stock was in free fall still. It was only a few days ago when they announced a multi-year deal with Porsche, or Porsche, as some Americans say for some reason. But yes, you can see this is their multi-year partnership here. FaZe Clan, the lifestyle and media platform. Remember when it used to be an esports and gaming platform? The lifestyle and media platform, rooted in gaming and youth culture and iconic luxury sports car manufacturer Porsche, announced today a multi-year partnership. Together, Porsche and FaZe Clan will inspire the next generation of gamers to make their dreams a reality through original content. Esports initiatives, consumer products, and digital goods are all slated for 2023. FaZe's leadership at the intersection of gaming and youth culture, that's where they are. Lee Trink, the walking embodiment of a midlife crisis, is right at the heart of gaming and youth culture, despite knocking on the door of 50. But yeah, FaZe's leadership at the intersection of gaming and youth culture, combined with our deep understanding of today's creators, presents an ideal opportunity for Porsche to reach the next generation and connect with our worldwide fan network, said Lee Trink, CEO at FaZe Clan. We're thrilled to partner with a modern luxury brand like Porsche, who, like FaZe Clan, pushes boundaries to expand its audience while also consistently placing the importance of community and innovation first. And you can see these things do move the dial. That announcement was on the 19th. If you look at the chart there, look what it did. It did go up a little bit, didn't it? It was like a 1.2. It was trending down. So 19th, hey, we got a Porsche sponsorship. It's back above 1.2. We did it, guys. And then it's like, oh, no, but it's still FaZe, and it's still pointless, and we're still blowing money, and it's still a fucking joke, and what are we even doing, and blah, blah, blah. And now we're at 0.89. It's not as simple as announcing a bunch of sponsorships and strategic partnerships. They could perhaps go out and unveil another ambassador or influencer, another celebrity, although understand all of those things come at a huge cost, like the unbelievable deal they did for Snoop Dogg, and obviously they pretend that Snoop Dogg was just wearing that FaZe chain at the Super Bowl purely coincidentally at the same time he became a brand ambassador for FaZe. It's hard to see who they could afford to get when they're saying they've got $43 million in assets in the bank, $43 million in liquid cash, I should say, in the bank to keep the lights on until November 2023, when they're only generating approximately $14 million of revenue a quarter themselves from things they directly control, as we established in the previous video. And unfortunately, I think the writing is on the wall for FaZe. It was always a bad idea right from the start, in my opinion. I've talked about this with some people in the business. Obviously, the Four Horsemen did a podcast. I really respect Lurpus when his opinions when it comes to business and banking and finance, because he knows way more about those things than I do. Don't always respect his opinion when it comes to esports, but that's fine. We're experts in that field. We can have an argument about it. When it comes to money and business and all of that stuff, I don't fucking know enough about it to even have a competent argument with somebody like that. But, it's true, and he seemed to agree at least, that these companies, the public listing is generally a sort of last roll of the dice to get a huge cash injection. A number of companies have done this. They're all ones that are just thirsting for liquidity. I don't know what FaZe's strategy is going to be to get that share price back up. Someone in the chat literally typed it's 0.76 now. So it is getting worse and worse and worse. I had a colleague message me and say, I'll read you the DM, says here, they'll do a reverse stock split, if anything, to stay on the exchange. A 1-to-10 stock split should make it so they don't get dumped off NASDAQ. Now, that's all Greek to me. I don't even know what that means. But if you're in the chat and you can explain, I'm more than happy to hear that out. But anyway, yes, it's dropping even as I'm doing this stream. 0.74. It's dropped an additional 2 cents because Richard Lewis is banging on FaZe again, and that's clearly the type of power that I have. But no, it seems to be dire straits, and they really need to fix it. There's some quotes about this here. Wait and see. Say FaZe will want to avoid any such compliance issues in the first place, which requires the stock price to make a serious turnaround, but this coincides with the end of the 6-month lockup on FaZe staff and creators holding shares, agreed as part of the SPAC deal, meaning they can now choose to divest, which would impact the stock price further. So, in other words, exactly what I said, this is the issue. How do you convince influencers and people under the FaZe umbrella, many of whom feel aggrieved right now, as we've established, especially some of the old legacy talent that they've kept around? Many feel they haven't been looked after by the organization. Many feel that they may as well just get something for their time. And so, if they've been given thousands of shares, it might sell at 70 cents a share, but it's 70 cents a share you didn't have. The problem is if they get an influencer fire sale, i.e. even people who are in FaZe don't believe in FaZe enough to hold on to FaZe stock, there is going to be such a downturn. There is going to be no way to arrest that dip in terms of the NASDAQ listing. Now, I would wager behind the scenes, there's probably talks afoot for some sort of merger or some sort of buyout. That seems to be now the solution. And it gets back to just how broken an industry we have. Because remember, August last year, FaZe are the #1 valued esports org in the world. $1 billion, never seen before. That's like double the TSM valuation, which is also comical. $1 billion company that makes millions of dollars a loss every quarter. You explain it to me, right? They won't say it, but what would increase share price would be a big financial sugar daddy coming in and essentially saying, yeah, we'll cover all the costs. We're the new owners. We want to own FaZe. Now, that's possible. But the type of buyer it would be in this market, it won't be a VC group, okay? It'll be an established media company. So the only type of company that could buy FaZe, save FaZe, get the share price up enough so it stays listed on the NASDAQ and climbs higher would be if it was Times Warner. That's a potential. For me, keep in mind, Times Warner have already done crossovers with FaZe, DC Comics. It could be a Disney. That's entirely possible. Maybe they want to turn it into their esports, family-friendly brand. The F with a couple of mouse ears on it. That's entirely possible. Or it's the Saudi Arabian PIF. Or maybe a Chinese billionaire. But I don't know how much cultural capital FaZe has in the Asian market. I'll wager close to none. But they're the options. And if any of those things happen, and you happen to buy stock at this dip, you're going to make a ton of money. But be under no illusion, the chances of that happening are slim, and the chances of somebody else coming in and buying out in this economy, 2023 is going to be a year of shrinkage, and in particular shrinkage in esports, because we are all one big marketing exercise, and that therefore is superfluous. That means there is a chance FaZe could literally phase out of existence. They're going to try and cling on until the end of the year, but delisting off the NASDAQ would be an absolute disaster, essentially turning them into a fucking penny stock. There's that. What else could there be? There could be a merger. You could have another big esports org merge, like Envious and Optic did it. Historically rivals, but at the end of the day, one was being significantly more successful than the other. The other was being owned by someone that had become increasingly jaded with the state of the esports market, and two superpowers, one superpower and essentially a stalled project, merged, and it seems to have, worked out in the short term, for now at least. So that's possible as well. But again, highly unlikely. I don't even know who it would be. I don't even know what brand could realistically merge with FaZe, because all of the other highly valued esports projects, and remember, by the way, the Forbes valuations are such a nonsense. The non-existent Echo Fox was in like the top 3 or top 4 valued esports orgs at the time it existed, and it's not even here now. TSM have a ton of financial problems and are making, like, you know, they're letting their staff go. They're having layoffs. You know, we're going to get to the mass redundancies in a bit. So it just doesn't seem to make any sense that there's an org out there that could realistically assimilate FaZe in a meaningful way. So for me, I think FaZe, it's all hands on deck. They really have got problems in their immediate future, and they need to be all hands on pumps to try and find a way to boost share price, because as we've seen, sponsorship announcements aren't going to do it. And probably by the end of this week, by Monday, you're probably going to look at them being about 70 cents a share if it continues in the trend that it's in.